There are questions that have accompanied mankind since time immemorial. How did God create the universe? Where did man come from? When did time begin? The nature of God, the origin of all existence. When most people think of God, they imagine a supreme being in the distance, controlling all things, creating all beings. But for Ramana Maharshi, God is not a personality, but the supreme being, Brahman, which has no form, no time, no space, but from which all forms, time and space are born. He said, God, Self, and the Guru are not different. They are the same reality. God, Self, and Master are not different, they are all one reality. This means God did not create the universe as a potter creates clay. The universe arose from his very nature, just as a wave arose from the ocean. A wave has no separate existence. When it arises, we call it a wave. When it disappears, we call it an ocean. But in truth, from beginning to end, it is just water. In the same way, God is not far away. All of us, every grain of sand, every star, every little tear and joy, are manifestations of the same eternal consciousness. Ramana said, there is no creator or creation apart from the self. That is the starting point of all enlightenment. For as long as we see God as He and we as little people, we are still looking through the lens of the dualistic mind. But when the mind is silent, the boundaries dissolve, and we suddenly realize God has never been outside of us. From this perspective, creation is not the act of beginning the universe, but the continuous, living presence of consciousness, reflecting itself in countless forms. The universe is born from the mind, not from material. Ramana Maharshi once said a very wonderful sentence. The world exists only when the mind exists. Stop and contemplate. If you are in a deep sleep, without dreams, without thoughts, does the world exist for you? When you wake up, everything appears in your consciousness. This proves the world is not outside you, it is perceived within you. The universe, with its countless planets, galaxies, matter and energy, is not really out there, but a manifestation in the field of eternal consciousness. That consciousness is God. The sages call it Maya, divine illusion. Just like in a dream, you are the dreamer, the dream character, the dream world, all are a single consciousness playing with itself. In a dream, you can see mountains, rivers, people and things. But when you wake up, you realize nothing is really created, all are just images in your mind. Likewise, Ramana said, just as a spider spins a web out of itself and withdraws it back into itself, so does the mind project the world and then withdraw it. The mind is a tool for projecting the world. When the mind is quiet in meditation, the world dissolves into silence, and only pure consciousness remains. Modern science is getting closer to this. Quantum mechanics shows matter is not really solid, but only energy fluctuations in an invisible information field. But it is consciousness that makes these vibrations appear into reality. So the question, how did God create the universe, can be rephrased as follows. The absolute consciousness, God, contemplated itself, and in the process, created the illusion of the universe, time, and man, as a mirror reflecting his own light. When you look at the universe, you are looking at nothing but consciousness itself reflecting itself through the forms of all things. And when you realize this, the veil of illusion of creation falls away, leaving only the love and silence of the source. Man, the manifestation of God in individual form. In the silence of Aranakula, Ramana Maharshi used to say, The self alone is real. The world and the individual are mere appearances. But do not misunderstand that man is a meaningless illusion. On the contrary, it is in the human body that the eternal consciousness is awakening to realize itself. Man is the intersection between the visible and the invisible. This body belongs to earth, water, wind, fire, but this soul belongs to the light of God. We are the bridge between two worlds, material and spiritual, finite and infinite. Ramana pointed out, what we call I is actually just the idea of ourselves, not ourselves. When the mind identifies with the body, it forgets its divine nature. But when we ask, who am I? The shell of illusion falls away, revealing the light of the Creator within. He said, the ego is the first thought. It is the source of all other thoughts. So, the real creation does not begin with the action of God outside, but begins when the thought I exist as an individual arises. When the idea of I arises, the world appears at the same time. When that idea dissolves in meditation, the entire universe dissolves into absolute silence. From the deepest perspective, we are not the little souls created by God, but God experiencing Himself in human form. Like a wave that can ask the ocean, how did you create me? And the ocean smiled, I did not create you, you are me, moving. Time, a product of the mind, not of God. Time is one of the greatest mysteries of existence. Humans measure it with clocks, attaching to it the concept of past, present, future. But Ramana Maharshi sees time from a completely different perspective. He said, time is only an idea. There is only the reality. Whatever you think it is, it appears to be. When the mind operates, it creates a continuous chain of memories and expectations. Memories give birth to the past, expectations give birth to the future, and both are based on the idea of I. When I disappears, the whole of time collapses like a dream that disappears at dawn. In deep meditation, the practitioner can feel this directly. There is no 1 second that passes. There is only eternal presence, a state beyond time. That is where God exists, not as an entity in time, but as eternal being itself. Ramana once said, what is, always is. It does not arise nor set. That is the self. When you are truly present, all movements of time become only waves on a still lake. You no longer live in time, time begins to flow within you. Modern science has also begun to suggest this. The theory of relativity shows that time is not fixed, it stretches and expands depending on the observer. But in awareness, we realize something deeper. The observer and time are not different. The mind creates time, and God is the foundation beyond the mind. The mystery of creation, when there is no creator and the created. When one is in a dualistic state of mind, the world has two poles. There is God and there is the universe created by Him. But when one goes into the depths of silence, duality dissolves, and there is only one reality. Ramana Maharshi said, there is neither creation nor destruction, neither birth nor death. There is only the self. This statement is not an abstract philosophy, but the living experience of one who has transcended illusion. When he attained enlightenment at the age of 16, Ramana did not see God outside himself, but saw the entire universe as himself. There is no longer I and you, no longer creator and created, there is only life itself, knowing itself. So the question, how did God create the universe, is really only meaningful in the mind. Because the universe has never been created. It only appears when there is someone to see it, and disappears when there is no one to observe it. It is like an image in a mirror. When there is a mirror, the reflection appears. But the image is never separate from the mirror, nor does it have a separate entity. The universe is a reflection in the mirror of God's consciousness. When you turn inward, see clearly, I am that consciousness, the veil of illusion falls, and the truth appears. I have never been born, never died, never been created, I am what is. At this level, all doctrines, all divine images, all concepts of creation become meaningless but extremely sacred. Because you realize, everything is just God's way of contemplating Himself in many forms. Practice of realization, return to the source. All philosophies, all concepts of the universe or God are meaningless if not realized in one's own consciousness. Ramana Maharshi does not invite us to believe in anything, he invites us to experience the truth directly through a simple yet great method, Atmavikara, inquiry into the self, who am I? When you sit in silence, let go of all thoughts, just keep one question. Who am I? Do not seek the answer with the intellect. Let the question pierce the mind like an arrow of light. Every time a thought arises, I am this body, I am the thinker, I am meditating, turn back and ask, who is thinking that? Gradually, you will realize that all thoughts, all images, all emotions are just passing clouds in the sky of consciousness. And when they all disappear, there remains only the pure sky of self, invisible yet luminous, still yet alive. That is the moment when the seeker disappears. And in that disappearance, God appears, not as a figure, but as you. Ramana once said, when the mind turns inward and merges into the self, the illusion of creation disappears. This practice is not an attempt to attain anything, but a letting go of all that is not real. Not to seek God, but to become silent and see that you have never been separate from Him. Awakening in everyday life. Enlightenment is not in a cave, it does not belong to long hours of meditation, it is revealed in every moment of life. Ramana Maharshi lived in the crowd, interacting with people, but inside himself, completely silent. He once said, "Be still, and know that you are God. Be still, and realize that you are God." Awakening does not mean leaving the world, but seeing the world as it is, a dance of consciousness. When you drink water, drink with awareness. When you talk, talk with awareness. When you suffer, observe the pain without identifying with it. Gradually, you realize there is no doer, only action occurs. There is no thinker, only thoughts arise and pass away. There is no doer, only life manifesting itself. Life then becomes a continuous meditation, no longer divided between the sacred and the profane. For the sacred is all the ordinary, when seen in the light of awareness. Ramana said, when the doer disappears, all actions become pure. When you live in awareness, you no longer need to look for God, you see Him in every breath, in every dawn light, in the eyes of the person you meet. Science, spirituality, and the meeting of two currents. Perhaps ours is the first time that science and spirituality have begun to join hands to describe the same thing in two different languages. Quantum science says, matter does not really exist as an independent entity. Particles and waves exist depending on the observer. All is a unified energy field. Ramana Maharshi said the same thing more than 100 years ago. Without the mind, there is no world. The world is only thought. When the scientist observes, matter appears. When he does not observe, matter dissolves into quantum potential. When your mind perceives, the world comes into being. When the mind is quiet, there is only formless absolute reality. This shows that consciousness is the foundation of the universe. Both science and spirituality are going in the same direction, only the means are different. Science looks outward, analyzing phenomena. Spirituality looks inward, realizing the essence. But when they reach the end, both dissolve into the silence of the unnameable. And in that silence, you suddenly realize there are not two paths, there is only one. Because the inquirer, and the truth are all a single consciousness discovering itself. Conclusion: the universe was never created. After all the analysis, the philosophies, the images, the only question left is, was the universe really created? Ramana Maharshi smiled in silence. He did not reply, for in absolute reality, there is nothing to be created or destroyed. There is no creation, no dissolution, no bondage, no liberation. It is all the self. The universe is like a dream. In a dream, you see yourself being born, living, loving, suffering, and then dying. But when you wake up, you smile softly. No one is really born or dying, only the dream takes place in the mind. In the same way, when one awakens in the light of selfhood, the entire universe is seen. No beginning, no end. Only eternal existence, unchanging, timeless, spaceless, infinite, still. From then on, God created the universe is no longer a story, but becomes a sacred expression of self-conscious love. For God does not create to possess, but to experience himself in countless forms: you, me, wind, water, light, and even this silence. And when you realize that, all religions, all philosophies, all concepts of God dissolve into one single truth. I am what is. Not the past. Not the future. Not the creator or the created. Only life itself, knowing itself through your eyes.